The Garden of 1,000 Wishes. Once upon a time, in a quiet valley surrounded by misty blue mountains, there lived a young girl named Meera. She was gentle and curious, with eyes that sparkled like morning dew and hair the color of honey. Meera lived with her grandmother in a small cottage at the edge of a wild forest. They were poor but happy. They grew vegetables, kept bees, and made honey that glowed golden in the sunlight. But there was one thing that made Meera sad. Her grandmother was getting weaker with each passing season. Some days she would sit by the window, her hands trembling as she tried to weave baskets. Meera wished she could help her grandmother, but she didn't know how. One evening, after the last bee had flown home and the moon rose silver over the valley, Meera heard a soft whisper in the wind. If you seek what your heart desires, follow the path of silver leaves. She looked outside and gasped. A narrow path had appeared, glowing faintly in the moonlight, its stones dusted with tiny silver leaves. Her grandmother slept peacefully, so Meera wrapped herself in a shawl and stepped outside. The air was cool and full of the smell of jasmine. The silver path wound through the forest like a river of light. Fireflies danced around her. Finally, she reached a hidden glade, and there in the center stood a beautiful woman with wings like glass and hair that shimmered like starlight. The woman smiled gently. "I am Aurelia, the guardian of the Garden of 1,000 Wishes," she said. "Every 100 years I choose one human heart that is pure and kind and grant them a wish." Meera's voice trembled. "My grandmother is ill. I only want her to be well again." Aurelia's eyes softened. "That is a kind wish, but every gift of magic has a price. Are you willing to give something in return?" "Yes," said Meera. "Anything." The fairy raised her hand and a tiny seed appeared, glowing with golden light. "Plant this seed under the moonlight," Aurelia said. "Water it with a tear from your heart, a tear of love. If your love is true, it will grow into a magical garden. Every flower that blooms will hold one wish. But remember, you must never wish for selfish things." Meera took the seed carefully and bowed. That night, Meera planted the seed in her grandmother's garden. She whispered, "Please grow, little one. I wish for grandmother to be strong again." A single tear fell on the seed, clear and shining like a crystal. The ground shimmered. By dawn, a golden sprout had burst from the soil. Within moments, it grew taller than Meera, its branches curling like ribbons, covered in flowers made of light. When her grandmother awoke and stepped outside, the flowers glowed brighter, and she felt warmth spread through her body. By sunset, she could walk again, her hands strong, her eyes clear. "Oh, Meera," she said, tears of joy on her cheeks. "What magic is this?" Meera smiled, but said nothing. She only hugged her grandmother tight. News of the glowing garden spread quickly. Villagers came to see it, some with sick children, others with broken hearts. Meera welcomed them all. She plucked one glowing petal for each person and whispered, "May this flower carry your wish." And it worked. A blind boy saw his mother's face again. A farmer's barren land became green with crops. An old woman found her lost son, who had been gone for years. Each time, the flowers would fade slightly, but new ones would bloom again the next morning. Meera became known as the girl of the wishing garden, and her home was filled with laughter and hope.
But not everyone who heard of the garden had a kind heart. Far away, a rich merchant named Dakar grew jealous. He thought, "If I owned that garden, I would sell its flowers and become the most powerful man in the kingdom." So one night, under the cover of clouds, he crept into the valley with his men. They found the golden garden glowing softly under the moon. Mira was asleep. Her grandmother dozed by the fire. The merchant plucked one of the flowers and whispered, "I wish the garden to belong to me alone." But as soon as he spoke, the petals turned black. The earth trembled. A voice echoed through the air. It was Aurelia's voice. "Greed poisons magic. The garden will bloom only for hearts that are pure." The black petals turned to ash. The merchant's wish withered. Frightened, he fled into the forest and was never seen again.
After that night, something changed. The garden's glow began to fade. Some flowers closed, others drooped. Mira grew worried. She tried to water them, sang to them, even whispered her gratitude, but the light kept dimming. She went to the forest again and called out, "Aurelia, please, what is happening?" The fairy appeared, her wings pale and sad. After that night, something changed. The garden's glow began to fade. Some flowers closed, others drooped. Mira grew worried. She tried to water them, sang to them, even whispered her gratitude, but the light kept dimming. She went to the forest again and called out, "Aurelia, please, what is happening?" The fairy appeared, her wings pale and sad. "The garden feeds on kindness," she said, "but the shadow of greed has touched it. The only way to heal it now is to make one final selfless wish, one that expects nothing in return." Mira thought for a long time. Then she said quietly, "I wish for everyone, even those I've never met, to have hope, love, and joy in their hearts." Aurelia's eyes filled with light. "Your heart is pure, Mira. This will be your last wish and your greatest." Mira knelt in the center of the fading garden and placed her hand on the soil. "Let every flower bloom for every soul in need," she whispered. A brilliant light burst from the earth, gold, pink, blue, and silver. The flowers rose like stars into the sky, scattering their glowing petals across the valley. Each petal became a spark of hope, drifting into homes and hearts, bringing laughter to children, peace to the lonely, and courage to the lost. The sky shimmered like dawn, even though it was night. When the light faded, the garden was gone, but the valley felt alive with warmth and joy. Mira's grandmother smiled gently. "You gave away the magic," she said softly. Mira nodded. "But everyone is happy now." Aurelia appeared one last time, her wings glowing brighter than ever. "You gave your heart freely," she said. "The garden may be gone, but its magic lives within you. Wherever you go, flowers of kindness will bloom." She touched Mira's forehead. For a moment, golden light surrounded her, and then she vanished into the air like a falling star. After many years passed, Mira grew into a wise young woman. She traveled from village to village, helping the poor, healing the sick, and teaching children to grow gardens of their own. Wherever she stepped, flowers bloomed, not of gold or light, but of the purest colors of joy. People said that when the wind blew softly, you could still see tiny glowing petals dancing in the air, gifts from the garden of 1,000 wishes. Finally, we learned true magic doesn't come from spells or fairies. It comes from kindness. A single unselfish wish can grow into 1,000 blessings. When you give without expecting anything, the world blooms with you.